Hello and welcome to Debating the NBA. I'm your host, Brian Germanero. Tonight we're going to be talking about, is Damian Lillard overrated and how deep can this Knicks team go? To help break it all down, we have Simone Walker and Sean Cunningham. All right, guys, first topic. Is Damian Lillard overrated? Sean, start us off.
All right, so Damian Lillard, in my opinion, no, he's not overrated. I believe ever since he was drafted in 2012, he has been one of the league's premier players. Ever since he was drafted in 2012, among players from that draft, he ranks first in both points scored and in win shares. And in Blazers history, he ranks first in three-pointers, points scored, points per game, free throws, and in his 11-year career with the Blazers, he averaged 25 points per year. And the knocks on him, he's made 8 playoff appearances, but he hasn't gone very deep in all of those. But that's mainly because he might not have had the best teammates to compete with during that time. 3 seasons, he had LaMarcus Aldridge at the start of his career. In recent years, he's had teammates like C.J. McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic, solid players, but maybe that is a result of how he was one of the better players in the league during that time on the Blazers. So we'll have to see how he does now that he's with Milwaukee.
We will have to see, but from what I've seen so far, Sean, I do not see Damian Lillard as he was noted as a top 75 player of all time. I think that's ridiculous. I'm not exactly sure how you make a case for top 75 player of all time if you haven't won anything. Yes, he was with the Blazers. Yes, they're not a great team. But that doesn't make, there's been players, historically great players, especially players in the top 75 that have brought a team, elevated a team up. And he's most comparable to Steph Curry. Steph Curry started on the Warriors. The Warriors weren't good. Yes, they have Klay Thompson. Could make an argument for Draymond Green, but he's not as great of a player that's going to help Steph Curry carry the Warriors to where they've been. It just doesn't make sense to have Damian Lillard as a top 75 player all time. That's why I think he's overrated.
All right, guys, well, we'll talk about, interesting to see how that plays out. Moving on now, we're going to be doing how deep can this Knicks team go in the playoffs? Simone, start us off.
Brian, I don't even know if they'll get to the playoffs, to be honest. Let's take a look. We got Milwaukee, they have to get through. Boston, the Heat. Are they going to beat these teams in a 7-game series? No way.
Well, the thing is with the Knicks team this season, yes, they haven't had a lot of playoff success in recent years, but this is a team that is already coming off a second-round appearance last year. They have most of the same talent that they had during that playoff run last year when they beat the Cavaliers in the first round, ultimately lost out to the Heat team you just mentioned. But the Knicks have a talented chorus of players this season. They have Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett. Those guys may not be stars, but they are at least good players that got them to a point last season where they could have success in the playoffs. And perhaps there's a time where they can potentially build off that and hopefully get a better chance of making it further into the playoffs this year.
I hope they do, but Knicks have been a poverty franchise for as long as I can remember. Unless there's some voodoo, like Space Jam magic happening, I don't see the Knicks acquiring skilled players that can carry them to the playoffs.
Well, they had a very decent start to the season in Game 1 against one of the teams that you were talking about in the Boston Celtics. They took them down to the wire in the fourth quarter. They had at least a 6-point lead in that game. And while they didn't come out on top, it speaks a little bit to how well this team was prepared to play the Celtics in Game 1. And if they continue to be that well prepared throughout the season, they could potentially make some noise in the postseason. We'll just have to wait and see what kind of moves they have to make in order to get there this season.
What's your record prediction for the Knicks?
So it could be that they expand on their season last year because they won 47 last year, but I'm not really seeing much of a difference in the record, but they could potentially move up to maybe 50 if they're lucky and can make a bit of a run this season.
All right, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this Knicks team does. I think everyone in New York wants a winner. That'll do it for us tonight. For Sean Cunningham, Simone Walker, I'm Brian Germanero. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.